and I stand there with my coffee going cold in my hand. We've been married 18 years. Solid years. Respectful years. The kind of marriage people call stable, like it's a compliment. We have 2 kids in college, a house in the suburbs with a yard full of weeds we pretend are wildflowers, and a shared calendar so synced it could probably run our lives without us. He's a good man. Provides well. Listens when I speak, though I don't talk much anymore. I'm not sure when that started. It was gradual, like the slow dimming of a light bulb you don't notice until you're squinting to see. The truth? I don't feel unhappy. I feel unseen. There's a difference. Most days are filled with errands, appointments, and lists. I cook, I clean, I organize. I manage birthdays, prescriptions, our aging Labrador. I'm the invisible engine that keeps everything moving. And no one notices the engine until it breaks. Sometimes I wonder if I disappeared, would anything actually stop working? Or would the system just reroute, like a GPS finding another way? I first met Andrew at my husband's office holiday party 2 years ago. It was one of those hotel ballroom things. Dry chicken, small talk, overly cheerful centerpieces. He introduced himself while I was at the bar. "You must be Claire. I've heard a lot about you." I smiled politely. "All good things, I hope." He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. Just held my gaze a second too long and sipped his drink. He stood out from the others, not because he was better looking, though he was in a quietly confident way, but because he didn't try too hard. While others talked too loud, he watched. When people laughed too big, he smirked like he saw through the act. He didn't perform. I noticed that. My husband said Andrew had been with the company nearly 20 years, climbing every rung. "He's the reason I got the promotion," he said. Smart guy. Demanding, but fair. He never mentioned how Andrew looked at people, or how still he was, or how he made silence feel like it meant something. Last month, out of the blue, I got a call from him. I was folding towels. "Claire? It's Andrew. Sorry to bother you." He sounded casual, warm. Said he needed some help organizing an internal company luncheon. My husband had mentioned my background in events. "Just a small thing. You clearly have a talent for structure," he said. "And honestly, I trust your taste." I hesitated. It felt odd. If it's inconvenient, of course. "No," I said, too quickly. "No, it's fine. I can come by." The office was quieter than I expected. Mid-afternoon lull. Phones muted. Voices hushed. I let myself in and told the receptionist I had a meeting with Andrew. She gave me a strange look, like she was trying to place me in a puzzle that didn't quite fit. He greeted me at his door. No assistant, no entourage. Just him. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled to the forearms, no tie. His desk was clear except for a legal pad and a coffee mug that said, "Don't confuse silence for inaction." "Thanks for coming," he said. "Have a seat." We talked. About the luncheon. About dietary restrictions and centerpieces and rental linens. But it didn't feel like small talk. It felt curated, like every word had a purpose I hadn't quite figured out yet. "You pay attention to detail," he said at one point. I respect that. Most people miss the details. But not you. There was something in the way he said it, as if the details he meant weren't the ones on the spreadsheet. He didn't look at me like a married woman, or like his subordinate's wife. He looked at me like he was seeing something he hadn't expected to find. At one point, he asked me how long I'd been with my husband. I told him. He nodded slowly. That kind of time either makes you invisible to each other, or it makes you indispensable. Sometimes both. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I felt my pulse in my throat. The air shifted then. He stood, walked to the bookshelf behind me, pulled down a thick binder, and placed it in front of me. "Vendor options," he said. But honestly, I prefer your instincts. He was close. Close enough that I could smell the faint trace of cedar and something warmer beneath it. He didn't move away right away, and neither did I. My fingers brushed the binder. His hand was still on it. Just then, the hallway phone rang. He stepped back slowly, not startled. Just delayed. I gathered my things. Tried to act normal. This was helpful, he said. I'd like to have you back in next week, if you're willing. I nodded. My voice felt lodged somewhere behind my ribs. As I reached the door, he spoke. Claire. I turned. He wasn't smiling. He stepped toward me. Slow, deliberate. And then, quietly, he closed the office door. The sound echoed in my chest. He didn't touch me, didn't speak, just looked at me like he was waiting to see which version of me would stay in that room, the polite wife or the woman who hadn't been seen in a very long time. He waited for me to speak. I didn't, and that silence said too much. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. I lay in bed next to my husband, eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting the slow rotations of the ceiling fan like it was a metronome ticking off all the versions of me I didn't recognize anymore. I kept seeing the way Andrew looked at me right before he closed that office door. It wasn't lustful or aggressive. It was quiet, intentional. Like he was giving me the chance to step into a different version of myself, if only for a moment. But nothing had happened. Not really. No one touched anyone. No one said anything unforgivable. And yet, something inside me had changed. The next morning, I moved through my routine like muscle memory. Coffee, oatmeal, feed the dog, check the weather. But it all felt like I was watching someone else do it. Like I was in a house I used to live in, touching walls that didn't know my name anymore. My husband came downstairs, still buttoning his shirt, laptop bag already slung over one shoulder. He kissed me on the cheek like he always did, barely pausing before reaching for the car keys. You okay? You look a little off. I smiled automatically. Just didn't sleep well. He nodded, half distracted. Did you call the plumber about the sink? There was our language. Lists, tasks, functional things. Not yet. I will. He took his travel mug and left with the love you that sounded like a post-it note stuck to a fridge. I stood at the sink, staring out at the yard. The grass was patchy. The flower beds hadn't been weeded in months. But all I could think about was the silence in Andrew's office. How it had felt louder than anything else in my life. And how part of me wanted to step back into it. I told myself I wasn't going to go back. That I'd email Andrew, make up an excuse, find a polite way to back out of the luncheon planning. I even drafted a message. Never sent it. 3 days later, I was back in that office. I wore a blouse I hadn't touched in years. A deeper color, fitted, elegant. Not flashy. But I saw the way the receptionist looked at me, a second too long, trying to place why I didn't look like someone's assistant or consultant. Andrew met me at the door. He didn't smile, not really. But his eyes changed when he saw me. Not in a hungry way. In a knowing one. Like we were already keeping a shared secret. You look different, he said quietly. Do I? More like yourself. He gestured for me to sit. We went over seating arrangements, catering menus, feedback from the execs. Every sentence felt like a placeholder for something neither of us was ready to name. At one point, he asked if I wanted coffee. I followed him to the break room. It was empty. He poured mine before his, handed it to me like it was something fragile. We stood there for a moment, just the two of us. Is this too much? I asked. He looked at me. Not yet. We returned to the office. He leaned across the desk to pass me a folder. Our hands brushed. Just for a second. But it was enough. Neither of us moved. Then he spoke, voice low. You don't have to say anything. I know. I swallowed hard. The folder trembled slightly in my grip. I haven't done anything wrong, I said, half to myself. He nodded. Neither have I. But we both knew we had. Not in action, but in intent. In where our eyes lingered. In what we didn't say, and how loudly it echoed. We didn't kiss. But I swear I still feel where he almost did. In the air between us. In the breath I held. In the silence he didn't break. I walked out of that building not as a different woman, but as a woman who finally remembered she could still be different. 2 weeks passed. I didn't see Andrew again. The luncheon was a success. I received a thank you note typed, signed with his initials. Professional. Neat. The kind of thank you that leaves no trace. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. About the pause before he closed the door. About the way he didn't flinch when our hands touched. About the way he said not yet like he'd been waiting for me to decide what came next. And then it happened. Not my mistake. His. My husband left his phone face up on the kitchen counter one night while he went to grab something from the car. It lit up. A woman's name I didn't recognize. A message. Not dirty. Not explicit. But intimate. Too many exclamation points. Too much late-night energy. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. I stared at it. Felt my stomach go cold. Then hot. Then numb. I didn't say anything. Not that night. But the next morning I asked, "Do you still love me?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't ask why. He just looked at me like I'd asked him for something he didn't know how to give. "I noticed you disappeared long before this," he said. And that was it. The line. The truth neither of us wanted to say aloud. We had both been looking elsewhere. Not for bodies, but for breath. For warmth. For attention that felt earned, not owed. I wanted to scream. To cry. To ask who she was. But I didn't. Because deep down I knew it didn't matter. He left the ring on the sink. I left the rest. The clothes, the lists, the loyalty that had outlived the love. Not because of Andrew. Not because of her. But because the version of me who stayed silent at that office door no longer existed. She'd already walked out.